I'm explaining a film from 2022 titled There Are No Saints. Spoilers ahead. Enjoy the content. Neto Niente has been in prison for years as a result of the last murder charge he committed on a woman and a child. He ultimately surrendered to authorities after feeling horrible about what he did in his final act. Neto was ultimately released from prison today, owing to the help of someone who owed him money that I'm not sure what he'll do once he's free, but the tattoos on his body will always remind people of what he's done in the past. Carl Abrahams, a man, helped Neto get out of jail and picked him up from there. Because he felt indebted, Carl gave some necessities such as money, clothes, cell phones as well as vehicles, so that Neto had the capital to start his new life later. Given what he has done in the past, this is very understandable. The next morning, Neto went to see his ex-wife, Nadia. Neto was motivated not by Nadia, but by Julio, his 11-year-old son. Julio was pleased to finally meet his father after such a long absence, but Julio was disappointed when Neto couldn't stay with him, while Julia needed a father's devotion. Julio feels pressured by the situation and conditions he is in now, where he and his mother are tired of the attitude of his mother's boyfriend who is often rude, even acts excessively when Julio or his mother makes mistakes. When Neto was no longer with Julio and saw his portrait, he remembered what Julio had said to his mother's usually violent lover. Neto, his biological father, couldn't bear it when Nadia's partner treated his ex-wife, who happened to be the biological mother of his child and also his son, arbitrarily. Neto also went to a pub owned by his best friend, a Mexican crime boss, to learn more about the man who had become his ex-wife's new partner. It is known that the individual in issue is named Vincent, and he operates a property firm while also working as a weapons courier for a Mexican gang. After the information about Vincent was deemed sufficient, Neto began to follow where he was going, which turned out to be towards an empty factory where Vincent was already there. The gangster boss said that Vincent was a typical man who was rude to women. This was proven when he threw weekly money at Nadia without the slightest sense of politeness. Neto went back to the hotel, where Julio was waiting for him. Neto also provided his favorite youngster a place to sleep. Meanwhile, he viewed other photographs shot by Julio that showed Neto's own face, which made him feel even more moved and compassionate toward his own child. After going home with his son, Neto ate alone in the vehicle. He received a text from Nadia warning him to avoid Julio since there are many enemies out there who might endanger their own children at any time. Just being discussed, several armed men appeared who confronted Neto, out of nowhere, and whose orders were these people, but Neto, who had a cold and cruel expression, immediately beat them all without the slightest difficulty. When he got home, Neto got a call from Julio who said that his house was being attacked by some unknown people. It made Neto immediately rush to go there. Neto was taken aback when he arrived at Nadia's house and saw that she had died covered in blood. This act was committed out by Nadia's lover, Vincent, it turns out. Vincent pointed Julio's rifle at Neto and urged him not to move or do anything dumb. But Vincent made a tremendous mistake by not considering who Neto was, since no matter how much they threatened him, he would always be able to overcome them. Shortly after the firefight ended, many police officers came on the scene. Meanwhile, Neto had to let his son be kidnapped by Vincent. I don't know what was really going on, but because he was at the scene of the commotion, Neto was accused of being a suspect in the incident. This made him again have to become a fugitive from the police. Neto sought Carl's aid in locating Julio for the second time. Carl was oblivious of this, but he knew who was behind it. Jet Rink is an arms dealer who gets his weapons from Vincent, who knows precisely where he's going and where his base is. After getting money in a car, Neto headed directly to Jet Rink's club. Neto encounters Inez, a female bartender who would help him meet Jet Rink's girlfriend, Kali. Kali was the one who would immediately take Neto to Jet Rink's residence, and when he arrived, Kali introduced Neto to Jet Rink. Neto pretends to admit that he works for Vincent and is conducting a survey on orders from his boss. Unbeknownst to Neto, Jet Rink is Vincent's best friend, who knows him and who his colleagues know. When Jet Rink realized that Neto was lying, Jet Rink immediately took a gun to kill him.
Tell you what I know. If he's not in Texas, he ain't. There's no South.
After receiving information about where Vincent went, Neto returned to the club to meet Inez with the aim of asking for help crossing the Mexican border, according to the location where Vincent was hiding. However, 3 Mexican adolescents came and requested Neto to use the restroom. They made a horrible error since they didn't comprehend what kind of individual they were dealing with at the time. Inez was eventually willing to pretend to be Neto's wife for a fee of around $600. This was done in order to get Neto across the border into Mexico, and the two of them made it without incident. Neto and Inez arrived to the inn after the officers were distracted by Inez's stunning beauty and grace, and Neto let Inez go or return because her duty had been completed. But apparently after Inez heard the story about Neto's chronology and purpose of coming to Mexico, Inez was finally willing to help him again, but on the condition that the fee was doubled. Inez will try to seduce Vincent with her seductress skill, until Julio is found. As a consequence of the meeting, Inez was unable to gain any information on Julio, but there is still optimism when Vincent invites them to another meeting at his house, hoping that this time there may be some information indicating where Julio is being held. When Inez arrived at Vincent's house, she was immediately invited to drink with him. While there, Vincent strikes Inez since he discovers that Inez is only pretending to approach him for a specific reason. When Vincent was about to hurt Inez, Neto appeared and taunted him. Vincent was tied to a chair in his kitchen, doused with boiling water, and had his nails removed before being burnt with coals. It didn't stop there, Neto cut off his fingers one by one until Vincent screamed in pain. This was simply done so that Vincent would tell him where Julio, Neto's son, was hiding. Based on Vincent's confession, it seems that Julio has been sold to a man named Sands, a former secret ATF agent who now runs a business of kidnapping famous people, where Vincent deliberately sells Julio to get ransom money to pay off his debt. After shooting Vincent, Neto called Bailarin, the Mexican mafia leader, to find out who the man named Sands was and where his headquarters were. When Neto learned of Julio's whereabouts, he counseled Inez to go home and not become involved again, but Inez clearly has a strong attachment to this situation and vows to continue following Neto until Julio is found. Neto, who was at the boxing club, began to inquire about Sands' whereabouts. While waiting, Neto and Inez were kidnapped and taken to Sands' home. When Inez was taken first, Neto began to show his shrewdness by killing everyone in the car so that he could follow where Inez was taken. Located in the wilderness, Neto began to walk following the path to Sands' headquarters. Neto entered the CCTV room, where numerous kidnapping victims, including Inez, were present. And here is Mr. Sands, the kidnapper Neto is looking for. There, you can see Julio tied upside down above the well. Plainly, Sands has a very strong purpose for purchasing Julio. It's not a coincidence, but there is a greater incentive, namely payback. Because it was revealed that Neto had murdered Sands' wife and children earlier. Surprisingly, when Julio drowned and Neto rebelled, Mr. Sands remained inert and did nothing. Mr. Sands actually shot one of his men, just because he stubbornly wanted to kill Neto. Apparently Master Sands didn't want Neto to die so easily before he could feel his heartache when his own flesh and blood died right before his eyes. When all his men were dead, Mr. Sands approached Neto to feel how satisfied he was after making Neto suffer. After everything was done, Neto carried Julio's body along with the other victims, including. Neto opened the trunk of his car after properly burying his child and discovered Bailarin, the mafia leader, who was known to have betrayed him by revealing where and how he had gone, so Neto opted not to repent and would continue to kill as was normal in the past. That's it for now, thanks for watching, and remember to like and subscribe if you want to stay up to date on our next film recaps. Your support would be appreciated. I hope to see you next time.